Welcome to Travel
Fly,
Sexy Podcast Episode 1. I am Natasha Wilson, aka Tosh Wills.
And I am Jasmine Anderson, aka Sincerely Jasmine.
Period. So before we jump into our topic today, let's more so focus on why we're here.
Yes.
Why we put this together, what we're going to be doing.
Why travel, fly, sexy.
Period. You want to start? You want me to start?
I'll start because I feel like you want to seal it up. So Travel Fly Sexy, the podcast. So I think the meaning behind the name is like it truly does embody me and Tosh, but also the type of travelers that we are.
Absolutely.
So I think being able to put that into words, weekly or bi-weekly, and to bring travel to reality for our audience is what Travel Fly Sexy is.
Dang, that was so good. I don't even know how to add to it. Well, to your point, yes, it's definitely a traveling style, if you will. So, like you mentioned, the both of us just kind of are real smooth sailing, cool, traveling, sexy, like leisure, all of that. So it ties into exactly what we are as travelers and what we hope that our audience will get out of the information that we're sharing. So, yeah. Travel Fly Sexy. Here we are. So today's episode is going to be focused on Tulum. And
We just got back from Tulum.
If you don't know, Jasmine and I totally just took a last-minute vacation to Tulum.
Yes. Last minute for Tosh, super last minute for me.
So yeah, last minute for me was like 9 days. I booked it.
Last minute for me was like 48 hours.
Right.
But yeah, so
But she came in the clutch.
we're going to talk everything Tulum.
So should we jump right into it? Let's
Yeah.
just, like travel hacks, what you need to know about Tulum, because we learned a lot.
Yes.
And it was both of our first time.
Yeah, and obviously from booking travel, we know that Tulum is super trendy right now. So since the pandemic, I think Tulum's probably been the hot spot in Mexico as it's fully developing. So I think these tips will be helpful for a lot of people.
So I don't know about you, but initially when I got back home and I digest the entire Tulum experience, I was like, whoa, that was a lot.
It was a lot.
It wasn't a lot we did too much. It was just a lot to put together and unpack and do and understand and then bring back and deliver. So I was like, all right, where do we start?
So much content. Even today, I was like, I'm pausing the Tulum content because we're doing Tulum content, and the way my brain is, I just can't Tulum overload. But that goes to say how much there is to do,
Right.
and how many different options you have in such a small town.
So let's start there then. So places in the area of Tulum specifically. Let's dive into that, ideal places, ideal areas, and more importantly, how the areas can increase or decrease the costs.
Yes.
Yeah. So we stayed in the hotel zone.
Yeah.
I mean, our hotel was 5 minutes from
the
the
hotel
main
zone. Yeah.
strip of the hotel zone. But on the map, it still specifies.
Yeah,
as the
it's
hotel
what
zone.
will ultimately be the hotel zone as it continues to fully develop, because they are building every second in Tulum right now.
Yeah, so that's another thing real quick is just if you're going to Tulum and thinking it's fully developed, it's not.
Yeah.
They're very much making it a destination right now.
Yeah, they are building off of the fact that it's so popular. And it's crazy because we've both been to Mexico over this last year numerous times, and it's every time you go back it's something new, at least 3 new hotels, resorts, restaurants. So it is developing super fast.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but I would totally feel like I live in Mexico. I would go there every month if I could, because it's always, to your point, something new, something cool to enjoy.
Yep.
So Tulum, so we stayed in the hotel zone, 5 minutes from technically the main strip. But I guess if you would, so I'll say this, staying near the main attractions, I guess, decreased our costs. But if I'm being honest, I think having stayed on the actual main strip
Yes.
would have at least decreased our transportation costs, which we'll get to a little bit later.
Right.
Because we had to kind of take taxis, even though the ride was literally
5 minutes.
Like, we're not just saying that.
No, literally no more than 10 minutes.
Yes.
Anywhere.
And that would, maybe the 10 minutes was because there was a little bit of traffic and the, taxi had to go a little slower. But honestly, 5 minutes. So having those costs, it is what it is. But staying on the actual strip,
You could just walk.
you can just walk.
Yeah, exactly. So
keep in mind Hotel Zone. And the other thing with Hotel Zone in this destination or in any destination is the safety
yes,
of that area.
very secure.
Because it's tourist friendly or it's geared around the tourist experience, right?
Yeah.
Sidebar, I guess, is this a good time to address the people in the questions for Mexico because we're talking about safety?
Oh yeah, that's great pivot. Yeah. That's why we're talking about Mexico also. Not only because we just got back from Tulum, but because based on like the current news right now, in these last few weeks, there has been some recent controversies on if traveling to Mexico is even safe right now.
Right.
So here we are, alive and well. So it is safe. But no, to really reassure safety, like Tosh said, on those strips where, these are dedicated to tourists, the security is amplified. So you'll see like there's more like police out monitoring. You see security like on your actual properties and things of that nature to like reassure the safety based on the current climate right now.
Right. Yeah. So, Hotel Zone is going to be a great bet.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, since we're still talking about places to stay, I am not the Airbnb girl.
No.
I am just not that lady.
Yeah.
But more power to you. But there's a couple of reasons. Definitely one being security of why I'm not that. But again, there are tons of them in Tulum.
Yes.
So if that is your jam, by all means go for it.
Yes.
But let me just tell you why it's not mine. And hopefully you will consider it differently. So I don't want to do my own laundry, my own dishes, take out my own trash. Like, that's not vacation to me. So it's not a vibe. Now, we stayed at the Atman.
Yes, the Atman residence.
And it felt Airbnb, but it wasn't. Still a hotel. Housekeeping came in. We could call the front desk.
Yep.
We had the butler service on text.
And I think that's a thing in Tulum. Like, I think because, like you mentioned, there are a bunch of Airbnb rentals and like villa rentals based on the style. But because these hotels and these larger companies are coming in and developing, they have this style where it's still hands off. Like you still get that comfort of like this being your own space. But you have staff,
Yes.
you have people at a front desk that you can, go to for directions or calling a taxi and things of that nature. So I think that's more so like the grounds that the Tulum hotel area is in, where it's like you have the staff, but you also get your space because they do have that like Airbnb vibe.
Yeah. It's
but
definitely hybrid. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath villa on the property, and the property was all either studios, 1-bedrooms, or 2-bedroom villas.
Yep.
So it felt like residences, but to Jasmine's point, again, we still had a staff.
Exactly.
A restaurant
on site. Exactly.
So when you're looking at your places to stay in Tulum, certainly consider those type of opportunities that feel like your own, but still gives you the amenities.
Yeah. And I think since we're talking about like the Airbnb style, that'll be a good pivot to kind of talk about, as we're talking budget, eating. Because like Tosh said, I'm not going on vacation to cook. That's just not what I'm doing. But if that's what you want to do, you want to get, like, we had a full kitchen. There was like a grill on the villa. Yeah, it was great. But obviously we didn't utilize those things. So just talking about like food a bit and speaking to your budget in Tulum, on that strip, you do have a bunch of restaurants. So the closer you are to the hotel zone, the kind of closer you are to eating, exploring, all of those things are kind of at your fingertips, walking distance, or literally walking distance. I wouldn't even say
absolutely
anything else. You could bike. There were a lot of bike rentals to get around.
That is true too. That is another mode of transportation, which we'll get to. But since we're on the topic of the Strip and things to do and things to eat, let's talk about the beach clubs.
Yes.
Because those are all on the Strip.
Yes.
And the Strip itself is on the beach.
Yes.
So that's important
Exactly,
to know.
exactly. And that's a lot of hotels that aren't in the hotel zone do not sit on the beach. So if you're looking to be on the beach while in Tulum, you want to stay in the hotel zone.
Yeah.
If you want to stay on the beach or near the beach, you want to stay in the hotel zone because all of Tulum is not a beach. Like, it's not like your average like Cancun where every resort you just walk out and you have that beachfront.
No, it is a jungle.
Yeah, it's a jungle.
That is what it is.
Yeah.
And we're now just seeing the opportunities that they've created within the jungle.
Yeah, which is so cool. Yeah. So the beach clubs, while we were there, we went to a few beach clubs just to try them out for y'all. So most of the beach clubs do have a cost associated with them. So it'll be like a day pass or an entry fee. So the first day we went to Taboo.
Of course.
We literally landed and went to Taboo.
Facts.
Gangsta. Yeah, we gonna make this work. We got to fit everything in. So we went to Taboo and what was it? $150 a person?
Yeah, it was confusing.
It was
honestly, when I looked
confusing.
at my bank statement, I was like, okay, I got 2 charges, but I couldn't remember if there was, because I gave them my card when we got there.
Yeah, and that was our entry fee charge.
Okay. And then part of that you could use as a credit.
Exactly.
Toward
It's confusing.
your bill. That was like the thing. Like everything was a credit towards
Yeah.
something. So part of that you could use as a credit toward your bill.
Right.
And then I guess we exceeded the credit available.
And
so
then we had to pay
the difference.
exactly.
At the end of it.
Exactly.
Okay, so that would explain why I had the 2 charges, because I was like, what is the 2
Yeah.
charges? But I don't be having time to dispute nothing.
And I think the entry fee is like $120 or like
I think it was $150. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think that's what I saw on my statement.
And a good portion of that, like at least 100 of that goes
Yes.
towards a food and drink credit to use at your table.
Yeah.
But the price did vary by table. So we got a table that was like above the beach. But I do think to be on the beach, it was a bit more expensive.
It basically, the price kept ballooning the closer to the actual beach you
Yeah.
got, or I think it was closer to the beach and maybe the style of the table.
Yeah,
too.
I think the larger tables, if you're like with a larger party, you know, it costs like the price of the table, so it'll be split amongst the group. But ultimately, there is a entry fee associated with Taboo during the
Very
daytime.
much so.
If you want to go during the nighttime, when the beach is closed, you don't have to pay. You just, order your food and drinks. But for the beach, you paying for these beach clubs. You're paying for the sand.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could bring sand to the beach, but you're still going to pay for it.
You're going to pay for it. Taboo was a vibe. I think Taboo's also very trendy. So do your research before you go. Like, make sure that you know that you are paying that fee, and depending on how many people are going, you know, make sure it makes sense for you. Obviously, it's something that we wanted to do and we prioritized it. But if it doesn't necessarily fit in your budget, don't force it.
Yeah, because, I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it was a vibe. It was like something to do. I do feel like when you travel, certain experiences you just can't like negate.
Oh,
like,
exactly. You gotta go to Taboo. But I'm like, if it doesn't fit in the budget, go for dinner. And you got, if you got other beach club options, go to Taboo for dinner and maybe do a different beach for the day, depending on your budget.
Yeah. So we also, another beach club that we did was the beach club at Casa, Malca.
Yes.
Which,
so
if
beautiful.
you don't know, is Pablo Escobar's mansion. So if you see it online listed as Pablo Escobar Mansion, it's Casa Malca. It's the same thing. But they also have a beach club and a day pass option, of which we did. And I want to say that one was $165 per person. But that also included a portion credit toward your food and drinks, access to the beach, a private day bed on the beach, and I guess access to some of the photo spots that were around the property. So
and they had like pools as well. I believe they have a underground, like a cenote built in.
Yeah, neither Jasmine nor I were up
we
to
didn't
go down and see.
so I cannot confirm nor deny.
I'm like 90%
but
sure.
I'm 90% sure that there is a cenote there
on property.
So if you want a cenote experience and a beach experience, you can kind of get that all in one at Casa Malca. So
then again, it totally could have been his underground bunker.
I'm like, what is under? I don't know. But go see. Like, I'm not a swimmer, so I wasn't going under there.
She definitely was like,
no.
I think that there's a.
And I peeked down, and it was stairs, it was water, so and people were going down there, so you get that included as well. The drinks and the food was really good too.
Yeah, they were, and the service.
Yeah, so it was totally worth it.
And the views and the vibes. It definitely, for us, I felt like it created a different scenery than we had seen all week.
Definitely.
And we were like, oh, the beach, like the real blue ocean beach.
Like, and the thing with Tulum, as we are constantly saying, it's developing, so the sand is like untouched. Like, it's like this like really beautiful soft sand.
Powdery.
Yeah. So the beach there was beautiful.
Yeah, literally just sat there and was like, wow.
Yeah, and I had no idea like where we were going. Like, I just trust Tosh on that one. She was like, "We'll do Pablo Escobar's mansion." I was like, "Sure." I'm thinking we're just going to take pictures like in front of like a historical like thing. I didn't know what we were doing. So for like, that experience,
bring your change of clothes.
Yeah, for that experience that had turned into that, I was like 10 out of 10.
So Casa Malca, if it's not on your list, that's also a great beach club and day pass to consider. So those are the two that we did. There's tons, because even our Kanan
had
a beach, and it looked like it was definitely a vibe with the glowing lights and all that.
So I think that whole like all of those hotels like may offer options for people, whether you're, not staying at the hotel, you can possibly purchase those day pass. But then you have those places like Taboo that are built specifically for you to just come and utilize the beach for fun.
Because it's not a hotel.
Yeah, it's not a hotel there. So there's like Taboo, Rosa Negra, a few others that are just strictly like restaurant/beach clubs. And then you have those places that are hotels that you can also kind of like go to, like Casa Malca.
Now, speaking of going to places,
our favorite,
because the transportation situation was definitely eye-opening.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the end of the world, but it was definitely eye-opening, and I want to make sure that we discuss it.
Definitely.
Because it potentially could make or break your decision.
I 100% agree. So I do think the transportation awareness, like, from start to finish is very important.
So let's just run the numbers here real quick to put it into perspective. All right. So the private SUV, like suburban transportation with the complimentary champagne and round trip was $350. So that's what, $175. I'm terrible with that. Per person, right? Cool. Granted, sure, you could get a shared transfer for potentially maybe $100, $120. So at that point, pay your extra $50 and do the private. So that's that. Then on average, every taxi that we got into, and remember, we said our hotel was 5 minutes
away. It was 5 minutes away from everything.
From everything.
Everything
was on average $30.
Yeah.
Some 25, some 45, some 40. Average $30 per taxi ride.
And that's another thing. Make sure you have your calculator up.
Your conversion.
Yeah, Tosh had her conversion calculator on hand, simply because those prices will range. So, like, make sure you're like, wait, well, like, because we would be like, well, we paid $30 coming from here. But if you're like, in downtown Tulum, like what they consider downtown Tulum, it's going to cost more. So it's like they will charge you more based on where you're getting picked up as well. So just be mindful of making sure you, one, have cash, because a lot of them did not accept cards. And last time we was in Mexico, we had a little thing where
Jazz and I went to Mexico together in October as well.
Yeah.
And this was, I think, the first time I ever seen Jasmine actually mad.
I was like, no way. Cause when you just ready to go home, like you just, so have cash. Like just have cash.
Right.
Cause they don't do that Apple Pay stuff. So have cash, make sure you have your conversion calculator on hand. And be prepared for that $30 minimum one way.
Right.
It's not Uber. Like, if you haven't been to Mexico, they don't utilize Uber. So you'll be having to call taxis. So that's also another thing, with the Airbnb situation. When you do have a staff that you're, working with at your accommodations, they can call these taxis for you. They have relationships with transportation companies, where they can get you in and out like that. So that's another reason I personally like to stay somewhere where I can kind of just put the work onto the staff, because that's what you pay for.
Yeah, very much so.
So just be prepared for that transportation, because it's going to add up.
I think I read an article last week that said Mexico or the Tulum, Cancun areas do have Uber, but they don't recommend using it.
Okay.
Right now.
I was thinking that when I said that. I'm like, I feel like I called one in Cancun.
Yeah. The article, last week on the, on the fence of everything else that was going on.
Yeah.
Basically was like, we don't recommend using it, or something with the union and striking and so forth.
Yeah.
Basically, like, the people went rogue, so you get in cars at your own risk.
Yeah.
Was what the article said.
And as we talk about transportation,
just get the taxi.
I do not advise, as a travel advisor, I do not advise that you rent a car in a country that you're not familiar with. Yeah. And that doesn't have to be Mexico. That could be Europe. That could be Africa. Like, wherever you are, do not, if you don't feel comfortable with like the streets, and if you have to go off of Google Maps and you may not have service, in instances like that, I would not advise to rent a car. Sometimes it is the cheaper option, but pay for your transportation, let them get you to where they need to go. You'll be then connected with a company that can, maybe pick you up if you do have to do anything else that's like, drastic. Use tour companies if you're doing like excursions where they can pick you up. But I just personally would not advise to rent a car on vacation. That's extra work anyway.
Especially women too. Yeah. Like, I mean, I know I had this conversation, funny enough, in my comments yesterday with someone when I posted the reel about the
transportation.
And they were just like, oh, well, that's why I rent a car. And I was like, yeah, I wouldn't do that as a woman. Yeah. Like, I'm just not about to do that and walk and be rolling through the mean streets of Mexico.
Yeah. They drive different. Like, everywhere is different. Like, I done been to so many different countries where I'm like, oh, they drive crazy. Like, in Costa Rica, they drive nuts. Like, these, like, don't put yourself in that. You don't even know, like, no. Like, they drive crazy in Philly. Yes. Like, don't do it. That's just my advice. If you feel comfortable doing it, do what you feel comfortable doing, especially if you're with a group of people, if you feel safe with whoever you're with. But again, my advice is to utilize transportation companies, make relationships with, companies that are legitimate and you have their contact and you can talk to them through WhatsApp and just say, hey, we need a ride. Yeah. And they have like a website with a flat pricing or something like that. Yeah. I just think that's more so my preference.
And they'll pick you up. To your point earlier, you build that connection, you exchange contact information. Yep. And let's say you do need to, a transportation to Taboo or wherever you're going, at least you have that relationship now.
Exactly.
And they'll pick you up and they'll take you to where you're finna go eat. Speaking of eating, the food.
Yes.
Can we get into the food real quick? I'm sorry, because
yeah, and it's interesting because people was like, when we were there, that was the main question. Like, what about the food? What about the food?
Oh yeah, the food was doing one thing.
The food was so good. But we could talk about.
I'm trying to think
how the food, I guess, differentiates, like not only in taste and like quality, but also in price. Since we are talking budget, so we tried a bunch of different places.
We did. It was definitely like bougie budget. Yeah. Balling on a budget.
That's our swag. Like, that's usually our go-to.
It's a bougie budget.
Yes.
Like, But we already talked about the Taboo experience, which was cool.
The food was pretty good.
Food was pretty good. But I appreciated our waiter being like really transparent and just being like, this is beach club food.
Yeah.
Like, we have better food at dinner, or we have better food at our other restaurants.
Yep.
But this is the beach club.
Taboo is
the vibes, the drinks,
the vibes,
the shisha.
Yes. Taboo is the vibes. Like it's lit. It's not like that like 5-star restaurant where you go sit down. It's like super lit, and you could get a little bite. Like, the food is good though, but that's not why you're there.
Right.
Casa Malca's food was great.
Yeah, Casa. Yes.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of the calamari, and then those shrimp tacos.
Yeah, the tacos were great.
Excellent.
Authentic. But yeah, the food there was great.
And then we did downtown Tulum.
Yes.
So
which we didn't speak much on.
Right. I'm like, before we jump into the food, just to give you guys a heads up, downtown Tulum is much less expensive.
Yes.
Than the hotel zone.
Yes.
For a couple of reasons. One, it's where the locals still go and hang out. So the locals will definitely look at you funny if you try to tell them X amount of pesos for what they know is not that amount.
Had the conversion calculator.
Yes. And secondly, it's a little less populated and crowded, if you will. So, so that you're getting a better value for your experience. So the downtown Tulum was a nice touch to the trip.
Yeah.
We stumbled upon
a gem.
A gem.
Like a gem. Because we were getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated.
Because here's what happened. We planned on going to a specific place. We got the taxi to the place. We pull up to the place. Gates closed. And this was like a place we saw on Instagram or TikTok.
Cute, trendy,
exactly,
content worthy.
So we're like, let's go here. Let's get it so the people know. Child, they was closed.
I just was on their Instagram. That's why I'm like, I just was on y'all Instagram.
Jasmine was upset.
Like, I had to go back like, hold on. I just was on here. So, but everything happens for a reason because we literally found like one of the best food spots we had on the whole trip.
Yeah. So the place was called Nao.
Yep.
Nao.
Yep.
Tulum. Japanese place. And immediately you think, Japanese in Mexico?
I'm like,
trust me. Just trust and believe that they do everything right in Mexico.
Was so good. It was so good.
This place, like literally, it was at pretty much the end of the strip because we were just kind of walking, looking, trying to find an alternative to our original place that we wanted to go. And this was at the end of the strip. And we just happened to walk past. And the guy came out like, hey, what's going on? And we were like, all right, like, let's just look at your menu.
Yeah.
Look at the menu. We're like, okay, this looks cool. Like, we could do this. Then we're walking in, and the first thing we see, which we said we wanted with our dinner, was shisha, a.k.a.
the hookah.
All right? So it's right there.
Which is like, crazy.
Like, it was waiting for us in a Japanese restaurant.
In a Japanese restaurant. It just was like, okay, but we're going to go with it. We're like, do you guys have hookah? And he's like, yeah. And we're like, was not expecting that answer. No. Like, but okay.
So long story short, we sit down, we have an amazing dinner. Cocktails are fabulous.
Great.
Hookah has dope flavors.
Yes.
It's great. The service is impeccable. Every course is made to perfection. The staff is engaging. It's just a vibe.
It was so great.
And we're like, how did we get here?
Like, so great. It was so great.
But that food, baby.
Shout out to that edamame, like, because the edamame is like one of those things I'll never forget. It was a garlic parm, like spicy truffle edamame. Like, it was all these flavors, but in edamame. Mm-hmm. And I've never seen or had that before.
And you could taste it. Like, every girl.
It was delicious.
Clearly,
it was so good.
Was a winner.
Yes.
So that was in downtown again.
Yeah,
so
we'll make sure we list these like places
in the show notes.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so that was downtown. So again,
so reasonable. That's the selling point. Also, that's the selling point. It was so good. We forgot to say that. Well, we spent like
$65 per person, and we just told you everything we had. Like 3 courses.
Yes.
Appetizers, entrees individually, dessert. 2 cocktails and shots.
Yes.
And hookah.
Yes.
And we spent
hookah costs $50 at home.
Okay. We spent 65 USD per
Yes.
person, all in on that dinner.
Tip included.
Tip included.
Yeah.
And we did not we tipped well.
Yes.
$65.
Because he was so good. Our server was like a part of the kitchen staff. And he's like, I just came out and was just like trying to grab people in. And he ended up serving us and being like the best server we had the entire week. He was great. It was great.
So if you're in Tulum, add now downtown
Yes.
to your list.
You have to.
And then our other favorite dining experience.
Words cannot describe.
can't.
Like, honestly, you have to be there.
Whew.
It's nothing we can say right now. We're going to try to sell it, but it's nothing we can say right now that is going to make you feel how, like, this place was such a
feeling.
vibe. It's such a feeling. Like,
I always say, people remember how you make them feel.
it was so good.
And my whole soul, the whole time, was like, where am I? What are we doing?
So
and how?
Amazing.
So the place is called Kanan.
Yes.
Kanan, Tulum. It is actually a hotel and spa, but they have a restaurant above the hotel, and all of the tables are shaped like nests, like actual nests. And you're like a bird.
Yes.
In the trees.
In the jungle top.
Having dinner in a nest. Like, you're looking out, you're seeing lush green landscape
It's
on
unbelievable.
one side, and then gorgeous ocean on the other side.
Like, unbelievable.
And you're dining, and it's a 360 experience of wow.
Yeah.
And you can't even put it into words.
No, you literally cannot put it into words. Like, you have to. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, you have to be here. Like, you just have to be here. It's so amazing. And we were, like, so surprised about how, like we're saying, Tulum's so trendy. So you have those places that are, trendy. I'm like, how do the people not know about this?
Yeah.
I'm like on TikTok and Instagram just looking, like trying to find more content around this place. I'm like, oh no. Well, we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
You're going to go to Kanan and you're going to experience this nest because everyone deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel like my words cannot do it justice, and I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying. But it is one of those things where seeing is truly believing.
Yes.
And Kanan did it, and they did it well. And to Jasmine's point, like, we were surprised that, like, it wasn't packed. Like, we basically was in the restaurant and above the trees with all these
reservations were open. Like, we didn't have any issues with like selecting the time or like changing the time. Because we wanted to go to experience like sunset to get some daytime content, but also to like, experience the restaurant during the nighttime. So I thought that time slot was going to be so difficult. We were like, it was like 2 other tables there.
Yeah.
And like, it's literally a restaurant full of nests. So I'm like, we need this filled. Like, everyone needs this experience.
Here,
like,
right.
you need to be here.
Yes.
So please get to Kanan.
Yes. And just to give you guys some numbers again. So the Nest experience, the 360 experience, was $150 per person.
Yes.
And the full $150 was yours to use on your dinner. So at one point they were like, you still have money left. What else do you want?
He kept coming back to us like, more drinks, more drinks, more drinks.
Yes.
And also full 3 courses. We did our own appetizers. The food was amazing.
The food was phenomenal.
I mean, the experience in itself is amazing, but also like delicious. Like the food was delicious.
And you have to specify that because sometimes when you go to places for the experience,
the
food is subpar.
So
because you're here for the experience.
Exactly, because that experience was worth it.
Yeah.
But the food was great. Like, so good.
So good that Jasmine and I took to-go boxes and made sure that we scarfed them down for breakfast the next day before the transportation picked us up to go to the airport.
Was not letting that food go to waste.
Was not. So if that says anything.
Shout out to the chef.
You need to be there.
Yeah.
So the $150 per person was for the Nest experience. They did have a less expensive option, if you will, which I think was
$100 per person. And that basically puts you at the nest, like at the level beneath us, where, because again, we walked up like 700 flights of stairs. So we were on a 700. And if you sit like below, $50 off, but it's still great. Because I was like, we could have sat down here, like it's still a great view.
Yes.
And obviously you have the freedom to roam, I'm sure. So
yeah. So depending on whatever the occasion is for your trip, please
go.
Please, if you leave Tulum without going to Kanan, then did you really
You did not
Tulum?
do Tulum. You didn't do. I'm holding y'all to it. Like I have clients going to Tulum. If they don't go to Kanan, like I'm setting up the reservations. Like, everyone must experience this. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. So those were most of our experiences. Kanan, Taboo. We did the downtown. We did Casa Malca.
Yeah.
We were going to rent a bike, y'all, but then we woke up like, do we really want to rent a bike?
Yeah. Also going back to Tulum is still being fully developed. So the road that we were on was like a rocky road. So the idea of like just getting down our hotel's road to like the main road was like, like
let's not.
Can we take the cab can we take the bikes on the cab? That would be pointless.
On the paved road, and then we'll take it from there.
But it is very much commutable on a bike, and bike rentals are pretty much available at like most hotels, and I think you can get them on the Strip as well.
Yeah, and not for nothing, all of that stuff we're discussing is all a part of the Tulum things to do and vibes and all of that. But I think for me, the number one enjoyment that I had was the aesthetic of Tulum.
Oh yes,
like everything was a photo op.
Everything.
Like, I've always been the girl who thrives in the lush greens and the florals and the jungly. Like I love that for my content. So this was like the Mecca, and that's Tulum. Like when you see Tulum, when you look it up, when you think of Tulum, you think of bamboo and
yes,
wood and lush greens and all of that, and it did not disappoint.
No, like
it definitely delivered.
From our hotel to like everywhere we went, like just the Strip in general, it's like I just kept saying like this is so consistent. Like I just appreciate consistency, and I'm like they are consistent across the board. Like the look, the vibe, like it's very calm. It's like relaxing. Although like we talking about all this like super lit stuff and like having a great time and moving around, it's still very very relaxing. And I think that's like a test to the lush green and just the vibes of the trees and just the light wind. It's so consistent in the aesthetic. Yeah. So I really did appreciate that.
Right. So like, the trip when we planned it was definitely for R&R and for content, and we sprinkled the experiences in along the way. But the energy of Tulum,
yes,
I think 100% allows itself for R&R.
Yeah.
And then for you to add in anything additional to your experience that you desire, which is cool because if I compare it to a Cancun, it's up from the time you touch down, and it never stops.
Parties on the resort,
I think Tulum has a nice balance. Depending on what you're looking for, you can create that. So if you feel like today is your resort day and you want to chill and kick back, you have that option, and you're surrounded by greenery to do it. If you feel like tomorrow is your Taboo day and you're ready to go up, then you can do that too.
Are there, yeah.
So that was dope to Tulum experience for me.
Yeah,
and I think that's favorite thing.
I think my favorite part in general was the fact that Tulum is so different from everywhere I experienced in Mexico. So it was just like a complete different experience, like where I'm like. It was like a breath of fresh air, literally. And I mean, vacation's supposed to be that in general. But like just speaking to the ambiance and just like, it was just so calm, like waking up, like even with us like doing work and just like, catching certain things and even being on a schedule. Like we had a schedule itinerary. We were very much timed. But no, we're itinerary girls. So that works well for me. But even with that, like with us being like kind of like booked consistently, it was so relaxing. And I didn't come back like feeling like I usually do from vacation. Like, I feel like I come back and I need a day. Like, all right, let me get myself together. But I'm like, I came back and I'm just like, I felt so recharged. So obviously it was a great time. It was lit. We had a blast. But I do think it was something about that energy.
Yes.
That I personally knew that I had to experience Tulum. And I'm like, I'm so happy I did.
Yeah.
Like, because I needed that right now. Like, so I think you guys will understand when you get there what I mean, but it is naturally just a recharge moment.
Yeah. What else? Anything else on Tulum before we jump into?
You just gotta go to Tulum.
You just
like,
gotta go.
Yeah, you gotta go to Tulum.
Hopefully, you gathered all the highlights, the pros, and the reasons why.
I guess maybe one last thing before we move on would be to speak to the accommodations and the price in that. We obviously spoke about price around transportation, price around experiences, but I want to mention staying in Tulum is reasonable. So I feel like we kind of maybe created a conversation that could be scary where you're like, hold on, let me crunch these numbers and figure out if this works. But the accommodations in comparison to other places in Mexico are very, very reasonable. And that, again, I keep saying Tulum is developing because since they're in that like full development process, they're trying to advertise their properties to us as tourists. So they're like, hey, come look at these 2-bedroom, 3-story, 2.5 bath, 2-pool villas and for a very reasonable price because we want you to come back. Also, they're selling a lot of properties in Tulum on a lot of their these like hotel properties. They have properties that are available for sale as well as, obviously rental through the hotel. So they're advertising these things because they want people to commit to Tulum in the long run. So I'm like, now is the time because it's not going to stay. This vibe is too good to not, increase the price. Yesterday's price is not going to be today's price.
And y'all know that's
today's price is not going to be next year's price. So take advantage of Tulum. I mean, Mexico in 2022 was like the top destination of the year. And I kind of feel like it'll be the same thing this year.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
They're hitting
checking all the
boxes. There you go. Like, so what would be the point other than let's just go to Mexico?
Yeah. So
that's how we were. It's like, if I don't want to think about it, if I don't want to do the most in terms of planning it, let's just go to Mexico.
Literally. I booked my flight in 48 hours, y'all. Like, that's how attainable it is.
Yeah.
So definitely, do your research, utilize people like us as resources to kind of figure that budget out, but to make that trip to Tulum.
Facts. So I realized that starting out, we didn't even talk about who we were and how we got to be sitting here with you, but it's a perfect segue into our kind of hit topics for the wrap up of the show.
Yes.
So just really quickly, guys.
Who are we? Why are y'all talking to us?
What makes you qualified? We both, so I own and operate, and Jasmine is a travel advisor and a travel agent mentor for an organization called Travel Goddess International. So that is a full service travel agency specializing in affordable and fabulous travel for all travelers. Sorry, our producers look at the right camera when you're talking. So that's really where our love for travel kind of joined forces.
Yes.
That's how we met, and that's how we've continued to grow our relationship, which is awesome. But yeah, so that's a little bit, I'm like, wait, we didn't even talk about Travel Guys International, because the next half of what we're going to talk about is like, duh.
Yeah, it's all the, that was the fun stuff. This is like the real stuff. Now we get into the facts. But yeah, like Tosh said, Tosh actually was my travel agent, and she's the person who inspired me to immerse myself into traveling more, and now kind of committing to travel full time. So yeah, that's how we got here, and that's how we share our passion for travel. And again, just going back to the title, we have a very similar style in traveling. So we've taken a few trips together, and they have been 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Yeah, so
you
when they
can't
say the
travel with
girls go on a girls
everybody.
trip and come back not friends,
You can't travel
it's the
with
wrong
everybody.
girls.
It's the wrong girls.
So this is for the girls.
This is for the girls. So with that being said, we have some steeples that we want to keep in every episode.
Yes.
Just to make it fun, but also give you guys something to look forward to in addition to the new topics that we'll be introducing. So the first steeple is our booked trip of the week.
Yes.
So what that is as we mentioned, travel agents, we have clients and we have stories to tell from the clients.
Yes.
So each week we just want to highlight what booking either surprised us the most or was a vibe or you had a great client interaction, or it did something to you in that week. So with that being said, I'm going to let Jasmine.
Mine's is kind of funny. That's why she let me. But so my favorite trip that was booked this week was hedonism in Jamaica. Now this is an adults only all-inclusive resort. And yeah, look it up. And
look it up.
Yeah, look it up and let me know your thoughts. And you'll know why it is my trip of the week. But no, I'm really excited to kind of see the outcome simply because adults only isn't something that I often book. And Jamaica right now is it's kind of fell to the back burner a bit on my book trips simply because the prices have increased over these last few years. So I know people have been kind of leaning toward other Caribbean places versus Jamaica based on price.
Yeah.
So the fact that we were able to get an all-inclusive adults only in July, right in the middle of the summer for a great price, I'm super excited to see how that, turns out. And
I just like how you're not going to tell the people about hedonism because I'm about to tell them. So the long story short on hedonism and why this is the booked trip of the week is it is one of those resorts where you're not required to wear clothing. Okay. So if you're interested in doing the most,
it's real adults only.
You're welcome to do.
It's not just leave them kids at home. It's no, we here.
We here
we
for
are here.
a good time and not a long time. So show me a good time. So therefore,
I'm excited for my clients to have a great time. Looking forward to it. And I probably won't get pictures, but I'm excited for the recap.
Oh yeah, because I'm pretty sure that they make you put your phone away.
Yeah, I don't even think you can. Yeah, it's
if
like
you're
that.
Going in certain areas,
you can't have your phone out.
You cannot. So you really don't see photos.
Yeah, we're not going to get too much content. And that's also why, because it's one of those things where you can look it up, you'll see the rooms, but no one really knows the experience because you have to go to be a part of this club.
That just immediately made me think of the song Niggas in Paris when they go, no one knows what it means.
No one, it's provocative.
It gets the people going.
So
Precisely.
We are excited about that. July, I'll have an update for y'all and let y'all know how it goes.
There you go. So that's great. So jumping into our next, I'm really
segment.
I know, but I'm just I can't wait to know more about this hedonism. Nevertheless, the next, steeple, if you will, is our question of the day.
Yes.
Now, I personally chose this question of the day because of our topic, our main topic of Tulum.
Yeah.
And these two airlines being primary ones that travel into CUN, which is Cancun International Airport, which if you're going to Tulum as it stands, then you'd be flying into either CUN or Cozumel.
Yes.
Nevertheless, I say as it stands because they are building an airport in
Tulum Airport to come.
Which is going to be dope, but probably costly. Nevertheless, these two airlines fly in there nonstop in most cases, depending on where you're coming from, and rather affordably. So the question of the day, Jazz, is Spirit or Frontier?
Now, personally, when it comes to Mexico, I've flown Spirit before, but this year I have fell in love with Frontier. Honestly, ready to commit to the discount den. And I have fell in love with Frontier. Maybe they'll sponsor me. Shout out to Frontier. But no, when it comes to just budget friendly travel, especially out of Philadelphia, that's my primary airport. I found that I could just get a quick flight with Frontier, super cheap, fast. So my flight to Cancun, well, you know, to Tulum via Cancun, was Frontier. And it was different. It was different. The experience of the flight wasn't bad. I was on the last row, but I boarded my flight 48 hours ago. That was my fault, maybe. I didn't pay for a seat, and I got the last row. But despite that, Frontier does enter in a different terminal than most of the airlines that I've flown into Cancun. So when me and Tosh had to connect for transportation, we were completely different sides of the airport, which I didn't even know was a thing.
Because I flew Delta, so I landed in yet another. We didn't know
the normal one.
The normal, exactly.
She landed in the normal terminal where usually I land. I'm coming down, asking her like, "Where am I?" But I mean, again, the flight experience was great. It just was in a different terminal. So I would say do your research depending on whatever airline you're flying with prior to departure. But to answer the question, I'm a Frontier girl right now.
I'm the opposite. I'm 100% choosing Spirit if it is available. And let me tell you why. So I cannot stand the fact that Spirit gets such a bad rap. Like, you have to understand that 9 times out of 10, the crazy videos and stories that you are seeing are coming from the destinations where crazy people reside.
They're drunk.
They're going to. Case in point, if I am traveling from Atlanta to Miami, I give 0 fucks. I paid $5 for this flight and I'm on go. But if I'm traveling from DC to Guatemala on Spirit, I'm chilling and this flight is not full. I use that example because I did it and it was lovely. So 9 times again out of 10, you have to look at the destination, the departure, and where it's going to understand why you're getting these ridiculous results. Otherwise, Spirit is a vibe and I enjoy them. And now they added Wi-Fi and Jasmine knows, like, literally.
She loves the Wi-Fi.
I will change my flight if I look it up and you don't have your Wi-Fi working correctly. I need it. I'm a business owner. It has to happen. And now Spirit has that. So I have no issues with them.
No complaints.
They win in my book. So I am Team Spirit. You get both sides of the coin.
Yeah. And I mean, I love Spirit too. Who's ever cheaper? Like, I am just.
Who's ever cheaper?
I'm going to go to cheapest. And Frontier has been showing up with those sales. I've been like, don't sleep on Frontier.
Now, another thing though, and this actually goes into our next point, is like, I will jump on a Spirit or a Frontier flight for a day trip.
Oh, yeah.
Go to get cute little brunch in the city, do a little day party, and come home.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's a vibe for $35.
Literally. That was my plan. I was supposed to go to Florida for the day, and then I ended up in Tulum with Tosh. So that's just how life works.
That's because, you know, enjoy your life.
I still got a 10. As long as I got a 10, I don't care where it was coming from.
It's happening. That was the first thing someone said to me. Oh, you got 10.
Yes.
I sure did. Thank you. Priorities. All right. So our next, oh, sorry. What is it? Like a
segment
steeple is Brunch Abroad.
Yes.
So in case you guys don't know, Jasmine is queen of brunch.
Love brunch.
So we couldn't do a podcast and not highlight
talk about brunch.
A dope place to have brunch abroad.
Yes. And this time I actually found somewhere in Cancun because like brunch is an American thing as far as like the combination of the breakfast, lunch, and items that we like, you know. But getting drunk during the day is a global thing. So we found a cute little bottomless brunch spot in Cancun. You know, in case y'all not looking to go to Tulum just yet, I know y'all gonna go to Cancun.
Yeah.
So there is a Restaurante Marakame, probably saying that wrong. Marakame. Again, we'll note this in the show notes. But this was so good. So again, pull out the conversion calculator. 328 pesos.
For bottomless.
That's $17. $17.79.
18 USD?
That's 18 USD.
For bottomless?
For bottomless. And they got bottomless mimosas, margaritas, something else. Yeah.
Let me go $18. $35 Spirit flight.
I'm going to Cancun for brunch. We're going to do that. We're going to schedule that. Literally $50 flight and $18 brunch. I'll be back.
Yes.
Less than $100 on a
Yes.
day, and we spend it at Brunch here anyway. So yeah. So if you're in Cancun, there is a Bottomless brunch spot.
Wow. Yeah, $18. You can't beat that.
That's crazy.
Yo, take day trips, guys.
You
Take
can't
the
get
day
that
trips.
anywhere.
It's a thing. Like, take the damn day trips and enjoy your life.
Yes.
For a $35 flight on Spirit or Frontier.
Okay. And stop being scared of Spirit and Frontier.
They didn't do nothing to you.
Literally, like they get you there safely. Like honestly, I'm starting to think the passengers are the problem.
It's not a starting to think. They are
like, they didn't do nothing.
Meanwhile, me and Jasmine.
But charge cheap prices. I'm like, why y'all mad at them? Like, they're doing us a favor.
Anyway, and then last but not least,
yes,
to close out our show is travel trending topics.
Yes.
Because of course we can't talk about everything, but we definitely want to talk about what's happening now.
Yeah.
So you found an interesting story, so I'll let you jump in.
Yes. So I'm a Love is Blind girl on Netflix.
I have not watched it.
I was disappointed when Tosh said she didn't watch it.
I know.
I spent the whole weekend binging it, so I'm like, that's what we're gonna talk about.
I'm not gonna lie, I did spend the weekend binging, but it was not Love is Blind. It was rewatching The Office because I'm addicted.
I love The Office,
and you can't go wrong. But go ahead.
So Love is Blind on Netflix. If you do watch the show, which I'm sure you do. Everyone does, except for Tosh.
Except for me.
So this season, once they got outside of the pods and, they went into engagement, they always take a little trip. So they're in Mexico, and they were staying at the TSR Yucatan. So I just wanted to mention that because I know a lot of people probably watching the show and you're like, this hotel nice. And
beautiful property.
Yeah, the TRS brand is beautiful. But the TRS Yucatan is an adults only, again, speaking to adults only, all-inclusive resort in Mexico. And I just thought it was beautiful just seeing to see how they were experiencing the resort. So something I noticed was the float-in breakfast. And I know that we're all into the aesthetics
Yep.
right now. So if that's something that you're interested in, take a look at the TRS brand. But if you're watching the show, let me know what you see in a resort that you like.
And I think that's also, just to tie everything in, is just a great point of vacation and aesthetics, in my opinion, they just go hand in hand.
Yes.
So as we talked about at the top of the hour, Tulum's aesthetic steals the show.
It does.
And then the experiences add to the value. And you come back feeling like, I'm not even mad I spent that coin because this was a thing.
Yes.
I did a thing.
Yes.
And I'm happy about it. So at the end of the day, choose your experiences.
Yes.
Travel, take the day trips, do the brunch, enjoy life. And travel, fly.
Sexy.
We gonna get it right.
We gonna get it right, though. We gonna get the ping pong right.
We gonna get the ping pong right.
But thanks for tuning in to episode 1.
Absolutely. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next.